Hello, welcome to today's live lesson here on the Speak English with Vanessa YouTube channel. I'm so glad that you're here to spend time with me, with our community, and to learn English in the new year. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy 2017. I'm so glad that you are using the new year to improve your English. So welcome. If you are new here, please introduce yourself. Let me know where you're from. Why are you interested in learning English? And if you have been joining me for a while, thank you for returning. Thank you for trusting me that these lessons will be useful and interesting to you and that your time will be well spent. That's really important. So if you would like to join future live lessons here on YouTube, there is a live lesson every Tuesday at 9 a.m. EST, which is New York Standard Time. I don't live in New York, but I live in the same time zone. So you can join us every Tuesday at 9 a.m. And if you missed my free end of the year gift, it's the beginning of a new year. It's not the end of 2016 anymore, but you can download my free end of the year gift in the description below this video. There are a lot of useful tips for improving your English so that during 2017, when you're trying to find something else to do, what else can I do to improve my English? You can check this list. There are a lot of ideas and links and resources so that you can always have something new to be trying, new tips and techniques and methods. So I hope that this list will be useful to you. It's called the Top 3 Tips English Guide. There's top 3 tips for vocabulary and grammar and pronunciation and fluency and remembering and confidence. I hope that this list will be useful for you. Thanks everyone for joining me here live from Kazakhstan, from Brazil. Hello for the first time. Gutenberg, welcome. From Vietnam, Bangladesh, Dominican Republic. Wow, we are such an international community. It's awesome. And today we're going to be talking about a cool idiom that was recommended to me by a YouTube watcher. He recommended talking about some idioms, especially this one, that might be confusing to people who aren't familiar with it. And it's really important if someone says an idiom to you, you want to understand exactly what they're talking about. Maybe you don't need to use it all the time, but if someone says it to you, you need to be able to quickly understand what they mean, because if you misunderstand them, there could be some confusion, maybe some problems. If you're at work, there could be even bigger problems. So I want to help you understand, especially this idiom today, and maybe in the future, if this lesson about an idiom is useful for you, maybe in the future, we'll talk about other idioms too. Thank you everyone for the Happy New Year's wishes. I appreciate it. From Thailand, New Year's wishes. Great. From Syria, from Costa Rica. Allison from Brazil. Thank you. From Mongolia. Wow. Happy New Year to everyone. So today we're going to be talking about the idiom under a rock. So I want to give you a little quiz, a little test. If I said to you, what have you been doing? Have you been living under a rock? What do you think that means? If I said that to you in a conversation, what do you mean? Have you been living under a rock? What would you think that this idiom might mean? What do you think? Oh, Erman says, putting your hand under a rock maybe means having responsibility. Jorge just says Vanessa rocks. Well, I hope that this lesson will rock for you. What do you think it means when someone says, have you been living under a rock? Have you been living under a rock? Oh, it's similar. Ricardo says, have you been living in a cave? Oh, Sean has a great idea. He says, that means, I guess, you don't know what's going on out there. Yes, this is exactly it. Sean, you're the winner. It means you don't know what's going on, something that is understood by everyone. So let me give you a quick example, and I'm going to write it on my notebook just so you can see how it's written, or on my clipboard, and there are a lot of ways to use this. The way that I just used it is probably the most common. If you say something to someone like, it's 2017, and they say, what? It's 2017? Everyone should know that it's 2017 already. It's not a surprise. It's not a mystery. It's everywhere. Everyone should know it's 2017. So if someone says, what? It's 2017 already? You might say, have you been living under a rock? So we could use it as a question. And to be polite, make sure that you have a smile on your face. Have you been living under a rock? Kind of a joke. Have you been living under a rock? So this is our first way. We could just use it as a question. But today, to practice with you, I want to use this in a full sentence. So let's talk about some events that happened in 2016 that everyone knows about. Maybe everyone in your country or everyone in the world. We could say, what's something that happened last year that everyone knows about? Oh, well, in the US, it was a pretty big deal that some famous people died. So some famous people died last year. A lot of famous people actually died last year. So the most recent is the Star Wars hero Carrie Fisher. She played Princess Leia, who had the hair like this. So we might say, if you don't know, let's give an example here, that Carrie Fisher died, you might be living under a rock. And this is something that is for specifically American culture because, excuse me, maybe in your culture, Star Wars is not important. Maybe you don't follow celebrity news. It's okay. So in the US, if you don't know that Carrie Fisher died, you might be living under a rock. It's something that everyone's talking about. It's all over the internet. It's probably all over TV. I don't have a TV, so I don't know, but I'm sure it's all over TV. It's certainly all over the internet. So we could use this to talk about events that are really common. Everyone should know about. We've got some great examples coming in. Thank you for sharing these. So Erman says, I had been living under a rock while George Michael died. So he died and you didn't know, and then you found out later. Oh, that's an interesting way to use this. So you feel like I should have known, but I was not aware of things happening. So I was living under a rock when he died. Okay. Oh, Dennis has a great concise example. He says, oh, I just missed it. Oh, here it is. Living under a rock means a person doesn't know anything outside, even the name of his president, for example. Yes. So maybe you could add here, if you don't know that Donald Trump is the US president, you are definitely living under a rock. And I think that's probably worldwide. It's news everywhere. So you should know that. It's everywhere. It's in the news. So you're probably living under a rock. Oh, that's a great way to say. Ness says, if one says, I don't know who the new president of the United States is, one would probably say you have been living under a rock. Beautiful. Yes, in fact, I think I'm going to take a drink of water. I've been getting over a cold for a couple days. Dan too, we got sick at the same time, so I need some water. But thankfully, for Christmas, my mother-in-law bought everyone in our family these cool water bottles that have our names on them. Pretty cool. So thanks to her, I have some water. Oh, Betty has a beautiful sentence, and let's use this idea to talk about some other things too. Betty says, my boss has been living under a rock. He still uses a typewriter to fill out some forms. I used to have a professor like this. He never typed anything. He always hand wrote everything and then used a copier to give it to his students. But his handwriting was so hard to read. So you could definitely use this, Betty. My boss is living under a rock. He thinks that typewriters are the newest technology. We should use a computer, but he's still using a typewriter. Excellent method. Great. Oh, Manuel says, when a person doesn't know about recent news, culture, or entertainment that's extremely well known, we could say that they're living under a rock. Yes. So what are some things that are extremely well known? Like Zizel says, if you don't know that Morocco is located in the north of Africa, you might be living under a rock. Yes. Or you might have missed that day in school where you studied about it, or you might have never looked at a map, which means that you're probably living under a rock. So you should know those basic things. You might be living under a rock. I think that is a great way to use this. Let me read. I missed one up here. I want to make sure that I've said this. Oh, Jorge is talking about in Brazil, there was a really tragic plane crash with a soccer team or football team. And he says, he or you or somebody, you must have been living under a rock for not knowing anything about the plane accident. So if you're talking with someone and you mention that last year, I think it was December, maybe November, there was a really bad plane accident and you say, oh, it's such a shame that that happened. I can't believe it. And the person you're talking to says, what plane accident? What plane crash? This was huge news, especially in Brazil, but I'm sure worldwide too. You could say, what? Have you been living under a rock? This was huge news. Everyone should know about it. So this is something that is common for a lot of people. Yes, Bruno has a great concise idea too, that people don't know about things that are happening around them. We sometimes miss some things, but big events usually you hear about. Excuse me. Even for me, I don't have a TV, but I still know about things going on around me because of the internet. I don't need a TV with the internet. That's all I need. So it says, if you If you don't know Vanessa, you might be living under a rock. Well, if you're living under a rock and you haven't joined our live lessons, come out from under the rock and join us. You can do it. Oh, Khalid says, if you don't know that there's a war in Syria, you might be living under a rock. That is certainly true. It's everywhere. It's in the news. It's everywhere that you probably know that there's a war, so you might be living under a rock. Oh, Ahmad says, if someone is an English learner and doesn't know about Vanessa's YouTube channel, he may be living under a rock. Wow, lots of comments like that. Well, thank you. Louise says, you didn't know that Donald Trump had won the election? You must be living under a rock. Great way to say this, because this is most typical in a conversation. You're using it as an exclamation, like, you must be living under a rock. Where have you been? What's going on? So you're using it to kind of show the other person that they should know this. Why don't they know this? You should know this. So maybe for me, because I have a cough, as you can tell, and a sore throat, and my nose is exploding, it's okay. You might say to me, Vanessa, didn't you know that when you have a cold, you should stay in bed? You should sleep. Have you been living under a rock? Don't work too hard. Relax. This is great. You're trying to give me advice that I should know, but maybe I'm not using. That is excellent. Oh, now this is my next question. Paola says, in Italy, we say you're living under the clouds. So I want to know, in your country, do you have an expression similar to living under a rock? Apparently in Italian, you can say you're living under the clouds. But in your country, what would you say instead of living under a rock? I'm curious in your country what it would be. I think the person who recommended this lesson today is German. I forget the exact expression in German that he used. If you are German, then let me know. What do you say in Germany? Or if you have something like this, you let us know what you might say. Oh, Sadawut, welcome. He says, if you haven't joined Vanessa's Fearless Fluency Club, please join. Otherwise, you will be living under a rock. Well, if you would like to join the Fearless Fluency Club, you're always welcome. It's our wonderful community where we learn together every day. You can go to speakenglishwithvanessa.com/fluency and join our community. Oh, Jairo says, in this case in Brazil, we ask if you've been living on another planet. Okay, another planet? In Mexico, we say living under the stars or living in the moon. Oh, huh. These are all kind of out in space type of things. In Hungary, we say living under a bubble. Oh, in Thailand, we call someone who doesn't know it living. Oh, I missed your comment. It went by. It says living behind the mountain. Oh, these are really creative. So in English, we have living under a rock. For you, maybe in French, Jean-Jacques says you're living behind the moon. Living behind the world in Korean. Interesting. Colombia, what world are you living in? In the Ukraine, get out of the cave. These are so creative. So, oh, in German, you're living behind the moon. So we've got lots of far away ideas. The moon, the clouds, a cave, the mountains. In English, just under a rock. Usually this means you're isolated. You don't know anything. You're hidden from the world. And you might actually see this. In fact, I don't use this every day. When the situation comes up, I use this. But I saw this in a comic the other day because it was the end of the year. So the comic showed someone coming from underneath a rock and asking someone, what happened in 2016? Did I miss anything? And that other person said, nah, you didn't miss anything. But the idea is they're hidden under a rock. They don't know anything. So if you see this kind of image with a rock and someone underneath or someone coming out of the rock, now you know this implies that they don't know about current events. They're hidden. Very interesting. So I hope that this idiom is useful to you. And if you watch English TV shows or movies, I'm sure that you will hear this expression. And I hope in your conversations, if you use this, make sure you use it with a smile. Because if you say it to someone like, what? Are you living under a rock? Really serious? Maybe it's a little rude because they don't know, okay. Maybe you think they should know, but it's okay, they don't know. You can tell them the news or whatever it is that they should know. So make sure you say it joking, with a smile. Oh, what? Have you been living under a rock? Of course this happened. So make sure you say it with a smile, or you can use it to talk about someone else, like Betty used earlier with her boss. He uses a typewriter. Oh, he's living under a rock. What's he doing? So you can use it to talk about someone else. Our final sentence from Erman says, those who don't know how to use the internet in this century are living under a rock. Wow. Well, you all here are certainly not living under a rock because you figured out how to join YouTube, how to join the live lesson, and how to participate and write comments. So I hope that for you, you are not completely living under a rock. Sometimes we wish we were so that we could stay away from news or other things. But I hope that for you, you can really enjoy live lessons and participating online because you're not living under a rock. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today for this live lesson. And I hope you can join me again on Tuesday next week at 9 a.m. EST. Hopefully next week I won't be coughing. I hope it's not too loud for you. I tried to cough away from the microphone. We'll see. Good news is that because it's the internet, you can't get sick because you won't get my germs. That's great. So I hope that for you, 2017 started easily, smoothly, and happily for you. It's only been 3 days. Today is January 3rd. So I hope that your 2017 continues to be great. Let's continue to learn English together. And if you want to continue right now, even though this lesson is finishing, you're welcome to download the end of the year gift, even though it's the beginning of the year. You can download the top 3 tips guide so that you can really have a lot of ideas about what you can do next to improve your English. Print it out, put it on the wall, put it in your bag, put it a million copies all over the wall so that you won't ever forget. This is your guide to help you always have new ideas because sometimes we need new things to do. Maybe they can become your New Year's resolutions. So thank you everyone for joining me today. Thank you for your kind wishes about my health. It's not too serious, but just a little annoying, just a cold. So hopefully it will get better soon. Have a beautiful day. I'll see you again the next time. Bye everyone. Thanks for joining me.